So let's now do Monmouth Town Centre Part 2, but let's look at Monmouth as Fortress Monmouth, because what I'm now stood in, I forgot to mention this in my other video, sorry, this is called Agincourt Square, obviously after Henry V's victory against the French at the Battle of Agincourt, so yes, this is Agincourt Square. Obviously very, very early, the start of Monmouth would be Bronze Age, or possibly even prior to that, most likely prior to that. But that history's probably very much been lost, and there's only maybe little snippets of it. But Monmouth was a Roman town. It was the town of Blestium. Now, archaeologically, I'll say this, I'll try a third time. Archaeologists, bang, got it. Archaeologists have done various digs in the town. And they were very fortunate in that one of the shops down where my finger is pointing there became vacant for many, many years. The archaeologists were able to dig up the floor of the shop, and it was just a treasure trove of history from obviously the Roman time, the Norman time, Middle Ages, right up obviously to the modern day. But what they found was the outer wall of the town of Blestium. So the Romans always built their towns in squares, trying not to get run over. So it would have gone across there, over that way, around the back of the hall, and then at some point come around again like this. So yeah, the Romans always built their towns in square areas. I say a town, it was more of a fortress, but not a major fortress. Being here on the borders, this was probably what I would class as a mobile camp. So it was troops, etc., moving around. They could come into the fortress safe and secure, restock, refresh themselves, and then be on their way. What we have there is a modern phenomenon called the chav in his little hot hatchback. So, as you would have noticed when I looked back down that part of the street, this is the highest point in this area. The lower part of Monmouth is very, very prone to flooding. So let's have a look up here, because let's explore military Monmouth. So again, I'm in the centre of a Roman garrison, and we're going to go for a little walk up Castle Hill to Monmouth Castle. Posters depicting the history of Monmouth, sappers. Predominantly about engineering. There's a very good reason for that, but I'll come to that in a second. Royal Monmouthshire Royal Engineers Militia, Senior Regiment of the Reserve Army. We're looking at the headquarters. Well, let's have a look at the sign. Completed in 1673 by the 3rd Marquess of Worcester. Became an assize court in the early 18th century, which moved for Newshire Hall in 1725. It has been the HQ of the RMRE militia since the mid-19th century. This is the oldest regiment in the whole of the British Army, because it started out as Monmouth Militia, which is basically not really part of the army. It's a separate unit, because armies formally weren't formed until quite late, so this predates what we call the concept of a modern army. So this was a militia. It's now a reserve regiment, but it's the oldest regiment in the British Army. have a look at this, because this is a Russian fortress gun. It was given to Monmouth after the Crimean War in gratitude for the service of its men. It fired a ball of 32 pounds for 2,500 yards at an elevation of 8 degrees using a powder charge of 10 pounds. Note the double-headed eagle crest on top of the barrel. The carriage has been remade. So, we're very good at stealing things when we win battles. So, yeah, this is us giving the Russians a damn good kicking in the Battle of Crimea. If you can see it. So there is the crest of the Russian eagle. There's where the priming charge would go. This is huge, by the way. Put it to scale. That's my hand. If we come over here, we have more modern things. The Monmouth Militia Regiment, as it is now, they're engineers, they're sappers, so they're not frontline troops. These are the guys that build bridges, destroy buildings, and generally provide the sort of logistical infrastructure for the other regiments to go in. So there's a Fox Scout car from entered service in 1973. And here we have a Bailey Bridge, section of Bailey Bridge. Great British invention, came into use in the Second World War, but a sectional pontoon bridge that you could erect extremely quickly to get across rivers. Combat engineer tractor. So again, if you've got earthworks, if you've got anything defensive, you can send one of these bad boys in, fully armoured obviously, and it can make light work of moving earth for whatever reason. It's locked again because of living lockdown, but I thoroughly recommend, if anybody gets the chance, to visit the Castle and Regimental Museum. Obviously covers predominantly about the Monmouth Militia, but it covers, section over there actually is a history section, and it really does start with sort of prehistoric Monmouth, the Roman period, moving through to the medieval, then into the modern day. So there's lots of artefacts there. There's a room there that covers the Gulf War, where the Monmouth Militia were heavily involved with, and then back there's a selection of guns and then uniforms, sort of dating back to the 1600s. Really thoroughly recommend a visit to that if you ever get the time. And then if we come over to here, we have the War Memorial, which will be to all the. It won't just be towards the regiment. It will be basically all the menfolk of the town that were killed in. Well, they started out in the First World War, but then obviously they had to add extra inscriptions for the Second World War. So, a bit about the centre Roman part of Monmouth and the regimental museum. The regimental headquarters and museum.